Okay, so since we're doing the side in one piece and we're doing the top afterwards, first thing you do is check the bottom and all the sides to make sure it goes all the way to the edges of everything you could possibly want, and then some. Since there's two of you, I'm just going to get you to rip the whole backing at once and cowboy it on. Okay. And that way you can both pull it from each end. It'll pull nice and glassy, and then you can work down the outside so that the middle is all one tent. You know what I mean by tent? And then make sure you can squeegee in and out around this big border. I should call it a border. And then the middle we can work down with your, hands and yeah, same thing for the handle that's right here.
Yeah.
By the way, you're gonna want to lay that down before you start so that it's flat. The handle. Yeah. So just pick it up, and one of you hold it and one of you feel it. So here, let me put this down. That's the higher it is, the more problems it gives you, right? And then you communicate with each other. One of you says, "Oh, I'm not far enough," or "I'm too far."
I'm good down in that corner. How about you?
Same. Yeah, and the biggest, flattest thing is probably going to be this line up here. But see, so if you look at it now, the things disturbing the glass are these high points where this rubber sticks out. So that's what you're going to try and stretch around. And it's a pretty low risk trim, since a big old fat inch of that around the outside is going to get trimmed off because you can't lay on rubber. If you needed that trim to also go down, this would be so much harder of a trim. The entire game would be different. You always take from your corners and move to the flats. Why is that? Because then your issues get worked out as opposed to getting pushed in to the corner. The more issues you work towards your corners, the harder it is going to be to work them out. Yeah, but that already looks okay, because look, I'm going to be able to work that out and right across. All you want is to be able to run one finger, and then you can work all those wrinkles out later. This is the highest point on the whole thing.
Well, I would trim somewhere in here because it got a little
the sucky part is that you're kind of going to be trimming blind because you can't see exactly what you're doing. I think that this is rubber, right? And I'm pretty sure this is rubber.
Well, we can double check.
Yeah, it helps a lot when you look over here.
What's that mean?
You should come over here. So if you trimmed along the top of that kind of rain shield right now, how do you know it wouldn't fall short and you'd see paint?
Yeah.
By looking over here. If you trim along here, you have a whole inch.
Yeah, trim along this.
Yeah, you have a whole inch right here, but you don't know that until you check, because as soon as it's covered, you forget what you've just seen. I do that all the time, right?
Yeah, well, of course it's going to happen. Yeah.
So, actually, we do know it's safe to trim along here.
Yeah.
And I'll show you that later, but since that's the highest point on the whole thing that you're dealing with, you've already done the hardest part.
Well, you did that.
It's already done. Well, no. You can have the credit. I don't care.
Straight line, so look.
I would just look at the reflection. The reflection goes to about here.
Yeah.
And that's basically where your body line ends.
So then you go.
And
like
if we
another
go
inch or something.
maybe another quarter inch, but we're already going to be standing below that. You're not going to. It's going to go up
you'll
here,
never see it,
and you're not going to see it from the ground unless you're 6.5 feet tall.
Yeah.
Which who cares about that? They're freaks. Since we already looked at the other side, we know that if I trimmed right on here, there's no paint waiting in here to like show up and ruin my day. I know that there's at least an inch of trim. That's my forgiveness, is my trim. And since this is my straightest and highest point to relieve tension off of, instead of cowboying it down here somewhere, because if I cut down here, I have paint to cover with this piece. I want it to be one piece. So we'll just go at the top here. Easiest way to start my cut. And I'm just gonna start so that I can feel my blade flat against this here. That way I can run it straight across and I don't have anything to worry about. I know my blade's not long enough to cut anything. At this point, I'm not sure how to come around.
Well, there's like a little enclave there, Meg.
We're still
Like where the
kind of-
door would open.
I know that this right here is kind of in the middle of my trim, so I'm gonna go along this
Yeah.
line. Yeah, I
'Cause
have
you
lots
should
of
be able to follow that little.
forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because you never know, right? Is the paint come right up to here, or is it back here, or what's happening? Like, so I checked the other side, I'm safe right here. You don't want to peel this.
We need a doorbell.
We need, on the back door, yeah, we should. And I'm gonna keep,
You get dual one, yeah, one for front.
one of the biggest favors you can do yourself when you're trimming is to run a finger first and make sure you're still on track. I can feel where to trim. And since trim is often funny shaped and changes, I'm gonna go double check it. And actually, yeah, that's just where the door actually lifts, so this is perfect.
Yeah, as I say, there should
Make
be like
sure
a
I'm
nice little gap for
on my-
for trimming along there.
Yeah. Coming around curves, you often get this overcut before you correct for the curve if you're not used to it. So sometimes you'll cut too shallow or too deep, which is kind of like, you just need practice. I'm gonna double check again. Ah. I'm still on the trim, cool.
Beans.
Beans that are cool.
You cannot make your day worse by double checking. I know I'm supposed to be right on this line
We
here.
definitely need to do shirts.
Yeah. You will.
You make your cool.
Beans, cool beans. The
And then
curse of watching that
Beans that are
movie.
cool.
After you watch that scene,
Yeah,
you have
because
to
we'll
say
be
it.
cool beans, and then you have beans that are cool.
Yeah.
I'm always holding a finger. When you're trimming, you always have a guide finger on the vehicle. It controls your speed, your location, your tremble, your depth. You cannot really become good at trimming without it.
Hey, your baby's gonna be a pro rapper.
They'll listen to me talk all the time.
Yeah.
I like it when there's this nice straight edge to trim against.
Yeah, no, it's
Because that means I'm not on a metal piece, like
Yeah.
scoring it, or cutting the seal, and then the seal is not sealed anymore. Like,
right.
I like to have that nice edge. The tip of my blade's not hurting anything that way.
No, you got a safety net there. Yeah.
Yeah. Always try to make your life easier when you're doing this. Okay. So now we have what you can use to pop and then tuck again, right?
Pop and lock.
Yeah, so once you pop it, you can tuck it properly. Get an idea of what that looks like. But yeah, basically I can go around and
Yeah.
lay this all the way in where it's supposed to go. So that's where the paint ends. And then the trim's here, so we're gonna cut against there. This is an inside corner,
Yeah.
so there's going to be extra tension here where you're stretching it like a drum.
Yeah.
So you want to feed your extra vinyl into that drum space, and it's going to relax it a little bit, and it'll be easier to stretch in. Yeah, and there'll be less overstretch. And then if it's an outside curve, you want to start on the curve and work your issues away. So let's start. I know there's a handle here, so let's start here because you want to tent around it, right? It's already nice and glassy. This is perfect. So just tent already where it's already set up. That's a soft wrinkle. Came out. And ideally work from the corners out because then you work your issues away, not towards. And then you can do this 10 at a time. But since there's so much tension in it, you might want to pull this up and actually relax it a little bit, not too much. Glass is good, but this is too tight now. I'm not going to get it up to here without stretching it too much anymore. So I'm going to release that nice glass and just make it a little more relaxed. And you can hold it as you go. And then once I've got past here, I can actually just go up and down like a flat sign. Easy peasy, right? So there's certain things that apply to almost every situation, and there's certain things that you have to qualify every time there's new information, right? But on an inside curve, you've got the issue of it being too tight, so you feed into it. And on an outside curve, you've got the issue of there being too much vinyl, so you feed away from it. Now there's a lot of moisture in there. So you're gonna have to try and dry it out with this thing. Without heating your vinyl to the point of no return. So, hold that. You can see it drying up there, but it's always going to be hanging in that crevice if it wasn't dried out with a squeegee. Always towel your squeegee. So if you end up with water, this is one of the fastest ways to help it dry out.
Here.
I'm going to try and... Thing is, no matter how many times you dry it out, a little bit of moisture will leak down from that crevice because it hangs in there like a bug. So I'm gonna try and, it's pretty wet. Yeah, see, and I'm pulling it back, and that drum corner wants to rip because it doesn't have any give. So I'm not gonna be too rough with it. I'm just gonna try and get the extra water out, and then we're gonna try and... You want to dry it until it's relaxed, and then not much more, because you run the risk of overheating. Once you overheat it, the memory is dead. You cannot make that vinyl have memory anymore, which is kind of what you want with wrap. Just falling off. Sometimes I try to squeegee the water out of that area, because you can help to squeegee the water out. There's a lot of moisture. So long as it's not glue remover, you're not gonna have any permanent damage.
Does it smell like alcohol?
It smells like rabbit tack, actually. If I tack this and try to come back later, it's not going to evaporate very fast. So at least try and keep it open to the air. Sometimes it's got to be overnight. If you're trimming,
you want the stool?
no, this is fine. If you're trimming around something, the basic idea is you want this to reach all the way to the end of the paint. So you shove your squeegee in, and then it catches on this edge, and it overstretches. As soon as it overstretches, there's not enough glue in that area to actually hold the edge down. You trim it off, the edge will fail. It's only a matter of time. So what you do instead, and this is already, or it'll tear. What you do instead is you pop it up. I'm gonna release this back up. Until I can see the edge of the paint. Oh, it's not covered. So I take this and I feed it in nice where I know nothing's catching or sticking. And then you usually pop it once more and tuck it all the way in. Because if I'm holding it back like this and I tuck it in nice and hard, I know it's not catching or overstretching. And you kind of want to do that all the way around. When you have a curve like this, and you try to get ahead of yourself, it'll pull. So you kind of trim as you go sometimes. I'm gonna hold the tip of my blade against the rubber, away from the paint as much as I can, in that little space. Oh, let's do this. And I kind of long it. Okay, and then that edge, see how it's all lifted up? You just tuck it again. That's called sealing. I'm gonna go along this rubber. This isn't the best knife for trimming, but that's good. Pretty sure I can only go about this far, and it's fighting me again for tension. So you always release tension by cutting, right? So you do a little bit at a time. See it in sections if you have to. So this section is pulling on this section. If you cut it, this section will relax. So then I can cut this section, and that will help the next 2 inches to relax. That's only on a steep enough curve. And then, now you kind of have a free run. It's a straight line, so you can do all of this at once. Pop it and tuck it.
I do enjoy it.
So sometimes I do this scissor motion.
Now with maybe
And I can see this bubbling. So it's actually not laying down. And so one of the things you have to do in prep is towel your squeegee and make sure this edge gets as deep as it can go and absorbs everything.
teaching and showing and stuff.
And you always get a bit of dirt and water come out of there. It means it's not really clean. Since I like wrinkled that all up by pushing on it, the heat also helps it to relax.